cannot go along with attempts to deny the people of the DPRK their right to peace.
I now give the floor to United Nations.
Thank you, Mr. President. At its 20th 5 July 2012, the Human Rights Council adopted Resolution 20/15, by which it established a working group to negotiate a draft declaration on the right to peace. Mr. President, let us be clear. To promote peace, the international community does not need more resolutions. It needs resolution. Article 1 of the United Nations Charter enshrines the maintenance of peace as its first purpose. That is why we were concerned to see the Council's scarce time and resources diverted from addressing urgent country situations in order to deal with this exercise. What does the right to peace mean? Let us refer to the interpretation of one of the co-sponsors of last year's resolution, Syria. In its statement to the working group 3 weeks ago, Syria said, quote, "We all agree that the right to peace is not only a basic and necessary right, but is in fact inseparable from the most fundamental right, the right to life." Mr. President, the High Commissioner has reported that over 70,000 men, women, and children have been massacred in Syria. If the contemplated declaration on the right to peace is consistent with the Assad government's particular interpretation and implementation of the right to life, does this right to peace add or detract from the UN Charter? Does it benefit or harm humanity? Let us also refer to the chief sponsor of the resolution, which said, quote, "It reaffirms the right to peace as a fundamental condition for the enjoyment of all human rights, in particular the right to life." However, when this country, Cuba, spoke this week in defense of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, they invoked that entity's, quote, "right to peace." Mr. President, if the right to peace is equivalent to North Korea's interpretation of the right to life, will this benefit humanity? Will this add to the United Nations Charter? If the countries that are committing the most egregious, systematic, and gross violations of human rights known to mankind are invoking the right to peace, do we need this right to peace? Thank you, Mr. President.
I was informed of the fact that the Cuban delegation has asked for the floor in exercise of its right of reply. I therefore give the floor to Cuba.
Gracias, señor.
Mr. President, making use of the right of reply, I would like to respond to the unfounded allegations put forward by the organization United Nations Watch, which once again lacks in credibility and legitimacy in this Council when it refers to Cuba as a country which violates human rights. We would like to recall at this juncture that this is an organization paid for and financed by the government of the United States, which has openly maintained a media war and a war of all kinds against the revolution in Cuba. Cuba has the right to invoke, of course, and to defend the right to peace. As a way of standing up to the wars of conquest and plundering that have been waged by Western countries, headed up by the biggest hegemonistic power, as a result of which myriad civilian lives of men, women, and children have been lost. And one must therefore consider that the right to peace is fundamental. It must be defended. It must be protected. There should be a declaration on it, and the working group is working and is working appropriately. Therefore, we roundly reject the accusations put forward by this phony NGO in concerning what Cuba has said, and in its statements on DPRK and statements on the right to peace, which we believe should be promoted and defended, even though this does not suit these NGOs or such. Thank you very much.